Hi guys, welcome back to Real English Online. My name's Liam and today we've got a vocabulary video. Again, it's really about geography and we're going to be focusing on rivers and all the words to use when you're talking about rivers. So, let's have a look and you'll see what I mean. So, the source: a waterfall, rapids, turbulent water, shallow and deep water, a river bank, to meander, to flood, and a river's mouth. Okay, so parts of a river, anything really that I could think of to do with rivers, to be honest. So let's have a look at the first one. So here up in the mountains, this is where a river's source is. Okay, so this is pretty much where a river starts, and usually it's with melting snow or springs or several little streams meeting to form a river. Okay, so the river's source is where it starts. The river's source is where the river starts, which is usually in the mountains, as I've already said. And here's one that we'll all know, I'm sure: a waterfall. Okay, and it's very logical. Water is falling. Okay, and there's some fantastic waterfalls around the world. Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, Niagara Falls, Angel Falls, some very famous ones around the world which are absolutely breathtaking. So Niagara Falls is a big waterfall on the border between America and Canada, and we had to take our boat out of the river or we would go over the waterfall. Never a good thing. Alright, so the next one, okay, so you can see here the water is very violent, there's lots of rocks, and if you're whitewater rafting or something, this is good because there are lots of what we call rapids. Okay, so the water is flowing very fast, it's very turbulent, there's lots of rocks, it's very dangerous, and as I said, if you're whitewater rafting, it's absolutely perfect, you know. Okay, so here, like here in both of these pictures, you can see a lot of water and it's white and it's going everywhere, and if you go into this water, a lot of the time you'll be pulled down or tossed about, and we call this turbulent water. Okay, so this is areas where the flow is very strong, like for example at the bottom of a waterfall, the water's falling and at the bottom it's all going like that. Okay, and if you jump down a waterfall, you'll feel yourself actually being pulled down because the water is so turbulent, and you can get thrown into rocks and all sorts of things. The water at the bottom of the waterfall is very turbulent, and as water goes round and over rapids and rocks, it's also very turbulent. Okay, so I wish I was there right now. Okay, so here are two words to describe the depth of water. So shallow water means you can stand in it, it's not very deep, and the opposite is deep water, which means your feet can't touch the ground. Okay, so if you can't swim, for example, you should really stay in the shallow water. And if you're diving or fishing, or maybe you just like swimming but you can't see the bottom, the deeper water. And you can see in the picture here, at the very bottom of the picture, you can see the bottom, it's very shallow, and as you get towards the top it becomes darker blue or a deeper turquoise, and this is the deep water. So here a beautiful little river, and along the side is the river bank. Okay, so a river has two banks, one along one side and one along the other. Okay, so these are kind of like the edge. Okay, and when a river floods, which we'll get to in a minute, the water comes up and over the banks. But when we're walking along a river, we actually usually walk along the river bank. So on either side of the river, you have a river bank. I love walking along the riverbank because it's so relaxing. And here, real geographical term here now. So you can see the river looks a little bit like a snake. Okay, it is meandering. Okay, and all this means is the river is running out of energy and it starts going from side to side. And usually this happens just before the sea. And here, now this is probably the worst thing about living near a river, and actually this has happened a lot in England recently, and in some parts of the world in Asia. Rivers flood their banks, and as you can see in the picture here, this is devastating. If you have days and days of rain and the rivers burst their banks or flood their banks, it causes a huge amount of damage, millions of dollars or euros worth of damage. As you can see here, all the people's houses are flooded, no one can use the roads, no one can get to school, no one can get to work. It causes absolute chaos, not to mention a lot of damage as well, as I said. So this is flooding, okay? This is not a good thing. So when the river's water flows over its banks, there has been so much rain that it looks like the river is going to flood. And finally, so the source is where a river starts, and a river's mouth is where the river ends. So this is where the river flows out into the sea, okay? So you could say don't swim near the river's mouth because the water is dirty. Okay, and as usual, I've got a little quiz for you here so you can test these words, some very useful ones, and if you're listening to the news, or especially if you're doing an English exam, I guarantee you're going to meet these words. Alright, so here are the answers, and thank you very much for watching, guys. Till next time, bye for now.